to remove a bullet and relieve swelling on his brain. Now, following this incident on March 3rd, as we reported, officers say they
So I was right here at the stop, the red light, and all I see is a car flying.
Jafar Hassan described the scene at the Chevron gas station as chaotic. He says he watched from his vehicle at the Beech Nut intersection in southwest Houston.
I seen at least 4 or 5 cop cars chasing this, I believe it was a Mercedes.
Police say around 11:30 last night, officers from the Midwest Division attempted to pull over the driver of a black Mercedes in the 10200 block of Sugar Branch. They say the driver was suspected in at least 2 aggravated robberies. The Mercedes, however, took off and a pursuit went onto the Beltway and then onto the 59 feeder, where the suspect crashed at the Beech Nut intersection. Police say a woman was pumping gas when they saw the suspect jump into her car.
Fearing that he was trying to carjack him, approached the vehicle, immediately saw the suspect had a gun. They gave the suspect commands to drop the gun. He refused. One of our officers, a 15-year veteran out of Midwest Division, fired several shots. The suspect was struck. There was a baby, a 1-year-old baby, I think, in the back seat. I don't think the officer realized that. Don't know if it's a graze wound. That's what they suspected. They did administer first aid to the baby and also to the suspect.
Officers administered CPR to the baby. They say the suspect died at the scene. As for the officer involved in the shooting,
a 1-year-old baby. And let's take some time to pray for our officer, because they showed up tonight, him and his partner and the other officers who were out here on the scene, you know, to protect lives, not to hurt anybody. And that's tough on him right now, you know, and I just spoke to him. He's deeply concerned and hurting about this baby, but just like I told him, say it's in God's hands, and we're all praying for that mother and that baby.
Now, police say per HPD policy that officer is currently on administrative leave. Again, a child in critical condition. I mean, this is 1-year-old Legend Smalls, who is still in the ICU, and according to attorneys, has had to have a part of his skull removed to remove a bullet and relieve swelling on his brain. Now, following this incident on March 3rd, as we reported, officers say they attempted to pull over a man who was suspected in at least 2 aggravated robberies. Now, that suspect later crashed at the Beech Nut intersection and jumped into the vehicle of a woman who was pumping gas. Now, according to police, one of the officers gave that suspect commands to drop his gun, and when he refused, that officer started firing several shots, striking the suspect as well as 1-year-old Legend in the back seat. According to HPD, the officer did not know that the child was in the car at the time. However, today, Attorney Ben Crump says that police did know that the mother was inside of the vehicle. They said,
I'm Attorney Ben Crump, along with Attorney Tony Romanucci and Houston's own Attorney Darren Miller. We have the honor of representing Deja Smalls, the mother of Legend Smalls, who is 1 year old. On March 3rd of this year, Deja was pumping gas at the Chevron station, finished pumping gas and got into her car where her baby Legend was in the back seat in his car seat. The police were chasing a suspect who allegedly had committed armed robbery. The car he was driving hit a curb and apparently must have came inoperable. He got out of his car running with a gun and came to Dacia's car and opened her door with the gun and shouted obscenities to her, telling her to get out the car. Daisha screamed repeatedly that I'm not getting out of the car, my baby's in the back seat. She screamed at the top of her lungs. And when she didn't get out the car, he then jumped in the car and sat on top of Daisha, trying to put the car in gear. Daisha was inside the car, not outside the car, when the Houston police officers opened fire into the car, shooting the suspect and killing him while he was in the car on top of Daisha. And tragically, one of the bullets shot by the Houston police officer went into her baby Legend head, causing him to 2 weeks later still be in pediatric intensive care. They had to remove part of his skull to deal with the swelling of his brain. They also had to remove the bullet from his brain. He's had multiple seizures, over 10 seizures. He's still fighting for his life. They continue every day when Daisha asks, what is the prognosis? They say it's wait and see, hope for the best. He's still struggling to breathe on his own. He was on a ventilator for over 10 days, but Little Legend is strong. Little Legend is fighting, and we are all praying that he will get through this. But as Attorney Ramanucci and I and Attorney Miller, we discussed what would be his quality of life. This 1-year-old baby, Daisha's baby, what would be his quality of life after having a bullet removed from his brain and part of his skull removed to relieve the pressure from brain swelling? We're going to talk about the issues surrounding the Houston Police Department shooting into the car of an innocent black woman who was just pumping gas, and they knew she was in the car. If they try to say they did not know that the baby was in the car, well, they at least knew she was in the car. I mean, you saw the videos, it's well lit. You saw how close they were. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. But they still shoot anyway, knowing that she's in the car. She was absolutely in the foreseeable zone of risk. Her life matters. Did they not take that into account when they are deciding whether to shoot into a car where they know this black woman is in the car? They knew that she wasn't with him. They saw him get out of his car and run to her car. So why would they shoot into the car, knowing she was in the car? Not knowing who else was in the car, that there could have been children. There could have been others in the car. But they shot, and regrettably and tragically, Little Legend will live for the rest of his life with the consequences of their decision to shoot into his mama's car, even though they knew she was in there. This is very emotional on so many levels, for so many reasons. Miss Daisha Smalls, who is obviously very emotional, is going to read her statement to you. She has not left his side at the hospital since March 3rd. This is one of the first times that she's actually left the hospital, because like any mother, she is just praying that her child will make it, and she wants to be there to make sure everything that could possibly be done to save her baby's life will be done. So Daisha is going to try to read the statement as best she can, and obviously it may get a little emotional. Daisha, I'm going to put you right in front of the microphone here and take your time.
My name is Daisha Smalls. On March 3rd, I was pumping gas at Chevron, and when I was finished pumping gas, I went back to my car, and my son was in the back seat behind me, and I saw police at the gas station and a lot of lights, and I heard sirens, and a man tried to run to my vehicle, and he got in my vehicle, and shit.
Take your time. It's okay.
And he told me to give him my car, and I wouldn't give him my car because I let him know that I have a child in my car and that I would not leave my car without my son. Shit.
Just take your time. It's okay.
I was sitting in the car when the person jumped in my car, and the police were right behind him. Before I knew what happened, they were already shooting at my car, and I was just scared for my son's life. My son has been fighting every day for his life. And he's struggling on his own to breathe by himself, to move by himself. And we pray that his life we pray that he has a healthy life and a healthy, safe recovery. My baby didn't deserve it. My baby didn't deserve to be shot, especially not by the police. The bullet was removed from my son's head the same day that he was shot, or the day after.
Take your time.
The right side of his skull is removed because he got hit in his skull, in his head with a bullet, and he still has bullet fragments in his head, and he's in intensive care. And I just want my baby to be safe. I just want my baby to be healthy. I just want him to recover. I just want him to be back how he used to be. I miss my son. My son didn't deserve this, and I don't want to leave my baby's side, like, at all. Thank you.
Obviously, this is extremely emotional, and Daisha only came here today to tell you what happened from her perspective and what she has been struggling with every hour, every minute, every second since that video from March 3rd at that Chevron gas station. So we will keep you informed of Legend's progress and pray that he can recover from this and that he can have as normal of a life possible. We will keep you informed. Please keep Daisha and her family in your prayers. At this time, you will hear from my co-counsel, Attorney Tony Ramanucci from Chicago, Illinois, who also is my co-counsel in the case involving the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He and Attorney Darren Miller are critical to trying to get to some sense of justice for Legend Smalls and Daisha Smalls. So at this time, great lawyer, great civil rights lawyer, Attorney Tony Ramanucci.
Thank you, Ben and Daisha and counsel. I appreciate being here. You know, we heard that the first, narrative when this incident happened was that Legend had received a graze wound. Clearly, as we stand before you today, we know that that narrative is not true. It was a false narrative in the beginning. And we have to weigh all of what happened that night to determine whether it was objective and reasonable. We know that by the orders of the Houston Police Department, that they determined that all human life has value. That means the value of suspects who run away from them. That means innocent people who sit in the front seat of their cars in a gas station. And certainly that pertains to innocent children and babies who are in their car seats in the rear seat of vehicles. Every human life is sacred, it is sanctified, and is precious. Those are the rules of the Houston Police Department. Those are not the rules that the lawyers here on this stage have made up. Those are the rules of the Houston Police Department. So what we have to determine now, were the actions of the Houston Police Department both objective and reasonable under the circumstances? And clearly the answer is no. This suspect, this man who ran away from the police when he got in Daisha's car, whether or not they want to deem this a hostage situation or not, we don't even know what they're going to say about it. But even if this suspect had taken Daisha hostage, you don't shoot. This is not the movies. This isn't the TV show. This is real. This is objectiveness and this is reasonableness. The objectiveness is that there are innocent people in the line of fire, and we know that you do not shoot unless you know what your target is. And clearly the Houston police did not know their target because they hit Legend squarely in the skull, not a graze wound. So when we determine those factors of objectiveness and reasonableness, it's not an or factor, we can see that what the Houston Police Department did violated their policies. Legend should not have been shot. The objective qualifier here is, according to the Houston Police Department, was there potential for injury to citizens, officers, or suspects? And the answer is a clear yes. There was great potential, there was actually grave potential for injury to citizens. And that's exactly what happened. So under their own rules, this was not a justified shooting. And as a result of this needless harm, this mother has to suffer watching her child struggling to breathe on his own. And Ben is holding a look at that picture. That's nobody will know whether the Legend that Daisha woke up with on March 2nd of this year will be the Legend that she has waking up with him for the rest of this child's life. And that's heartbreaking, ladies and gentlemen. And that's because the rules were not followed.